Good morning. Hey, it's a morning show just for you. um, no, it was a real desert of morning radio this morning in LA, if you know what I'm saying. Because the show that I listened to was off, and there was a fill-in guy, and it was ironic because um, the fill-in guy actually took a job that I turned down. Last year, in the fall of last year, I was offered this afternoon drive show in Charlotte, North Carolina, because they needed a John and Ken of the East Coast. But the conditions of the job were that I drop Dark Secret Place, stop the podcast, and stop any Dark Secret Place, um, related things. So anyway, the guy who did take the job was filling in for Armstrong and Getty this morning, and I gave him an hour. But here's my rule of thumb: if you have to tell the audience, "Hey, so you've got 3.5 hours ahead of you of thinking hard and laughing hard," you're probably not going to be a funny guy. So there you go. So it's going to be another day of reading and running around with the dogs and exercising and stuff like that. Tomorrow night, oh shit! Excuse me. You know what? I didn't get my coffee. I forgot to get my coffee. Would you excuse me for 30 seconds? Can't believe I didn't do that. I'll have Lucille. I'll have Lucille entertain you guys while I go get coffee. Getting coffee. Don't mind me. Stand by. I'll be back in a second. Stand by, stand by, stand by. Get coffee. Forgot to get the coffee. Stand by. Almost there. Stand by. Okay, coming back. Heading back now. Coming back. All righty. There we go. Okay, got my coffee. And let me just start this morning's morning show um, with a little thing. So I I roast my own coffee. I bought this thing about 6 months ago. It's Korean. As you see, it's porcelain. It's ceramic, not porcelain. It's ceramic, and it has a leather handle. But you see, it's hollow. Right? And you pour your coffee beans in there, or just put them directly in the top. And you warm this up. And it takes about 10 to 11 minutes to roast a cup of raw coffee beans. So what I do is I buy the raw coffee beans on the Amazon, right? That's, they're very small. When they're raw like this, they're very small. And you put these green coffee beans in here, and you just sit there and you agitate them. Let them rest, agitate them, like, hey, you fucking coffee beans. Agitate them, and you smell them getting darker and darker and darker and darker. Getting more and more roasted. And I like a really dark roast, but you can do it yourself. And this will do about a cup of raw beans in about 10 minutes. And then the trick is either or immediately pour the beans out the handle into a colander and take them outside and then let them cool. You do not grind them when they're warm. You let them cool. And then also you roast them until they pop twice. It's weird. It's kind of like popcorn. They pop once when they begin to split in the middle, and then you have to wait for a second pop for the husk to come off. Then you take them outside and you toss them and you let the wind take away the husks, and then you can grind them. But it's I gotta say, it's a revelation. It's really good coffee. The thing, by the way, about having fresh eggs, having the chickens out here, is I didn't know this. I heard Neil Saavedra was talking about this with Kerry and Shannon, that there is a 3-digit date on a egg carton, and that's the day of the year that they were boxed, right? So you'll see right now, the freshest eggs you can find, it'll say 102, and it'll say sold or best sold by May 18th or something like that, but it'll say 102. So 102 would be what, like March 31st or April 1st or something like that. That's when they were boxed, and they don't get boxed for 30 days or so. So they get collected, refrigerated, they get washed and refrigerated. Then they're not even cartoned for 30 days, which is the craziest thing to me. Because my daughter and I, collect the eggs every day. Well, we have a buildup right now, but if you don't wash them, an egg can stay unrefrigerated for like 2 months, 2 or 3 months. When I worked as a private contractor in Africa, we could go to a market and buy a fresh egg, and it may have been laid like 2 weeks ago, and it's out, on a 100-degree day, but it's still good. It's still fresher than the egg that you buy at Costco or whatever. Shangri-La in World War II South Pacific. What do you mean, Michael Murphy? You mean the song? What do you mean? Give me more details. There's several different references happening there, Michael Murphy. News-wise, Trump revealed his plan, which is not, by the way, not a plan to open up the country. He was giving criteria. The CDC has worked out criteria, and it has to do with infection rate, mortality rate, and all that. And it seems pretty clear at this point that much of California, for instance, San Luis Obispo County has had 1 death, right? And there's a major university up there, but they're shut down. But my daughter and I wanted to go up last night. We wanted to go up last night and surf this morning in Morro Bay, but it's closed. But there's no reason it should be closed, because they just don't have the health problem that LA County does. Have you seen that the LA County death rate has gone up and up and up? Now they're setting records day by day. 3 days ago, 40 was a single day record. And then the next day, 42. And then yesterday, 53. And many of them are in care facilities, but the majority of them are amongst the homeless. So the people experiencing homeless who are also unsheltered. I've got no fucking idea what the difference of that is, but if you can't figure it out by now, the public health director, Dr. Barbara Ferrer, she's a propagandist. She's a politician just like the rest of them in LA County and LA City. She uses that language, and she continues to admonish all of us that these are our fellow Angelenos, the ones who sleep out on the streets and shit in the thing, and that they didn't bring this on themselves by living an unhealthy lifestyle. So we continue being browbeaten into feeling like that should affect the decision making about us returning to work and things like that. If you don't know this, by the way, it's no strike on her, but she's not an MD. She's a PhD. She has a PhD in public health, which is a discipline. You know, it's a science, it's a discipline. Just like the guy who's the head of the WHO, Dr. Tedros. Tedros, Ghebreyesus, Tag, as they call him. So that is what we're dealing with here in LA County. This is the only county in all of California, in the 58 counties of California, the 40 million people in California. LA County is the only one where it is getting worse. San Diego was getting there, but they flattened off. We almost flattened off, but then, like somebody predicted back in January, it hit the homeless community, and it's just absolutely exploded. And thanks to Garcetti's visionary leadership, he has metastasized the homeless into all these rec centers. Good for, I want to say, was it Granada Hills that's suing because they don't want homeless in there? So that's going on. And and so that's going to bounce all around the homeless community. Someone asked, can they force us to take the test to see if we have coronavirus? Public health law is really, really robust for a reason. That's how civilization survived. They could make it mandatory, but what they would also do would be that you could make it anonymous, that you could submit a number. They would give you an ID number for your test. It wouldn't have a name attached to it, because it is in everybody's interest to know what is the infection rate. But we don't need to know your name. That's what I would do. In the case of the antibody test, you know, again, we're still a long ways away from that. Stanford is testing some antibody tests and things like that. My daughter and I, what I can reveal here now is I can't say this on the air, but we were sick on Monday, February 10th, around 8 p.m., and it just hit us like a hammer. And we were down for 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. We brought our beds out here to the living room, got in front of the TV, and just watched Deadpool on a loop, right? And Deadpool 2, and then Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. So we had those 4 movies on a loop. And we just sucked. We just embraced the suck. And we, I made scrambled eggs and popcorn. We had sore throats, and we were drinking Mucinex. And in my case, Mucinex and vodka. And we just slept it out. And we didn't have a big fever. It was, at low level. It was like, it was like 99.9. It was 100, things like that. It wasn't crazy. And then suddenly Friday morning, we were fine. And so here's the deal. I used to be a medical lab tech at the University of Washington Medical Center. And a friend of mine from there, who was a West Pointer and a Army helicopter pilot, he became a medical technician, which pays really well, but you don't have to be a doctor or a nurse. He doesn't like people, so it's perfect for him. You just stay in the basement of the UW MC as a medical tech and make 120,000 bucks or so. Um, and and he now works at the UW Virology Center because it's all one lab for running samples. And so I called him and I said, "Hey, dude, we're post-symptomatic, but we want to be tested. Um, deal." And he said, "Okay, look, I can overnight you 4 tests, but you're not a priority. I can run them when I run them." But he said, "You're not going to have the results back maybe in a week." So on February 18th, we got a test pack with 4 swabs. So we got 4 numbers. I did 2 on my daughter's nose and back of throat. I did 2 on my nose, back of throat. We put them back in, and I overnighted them back to him. And so that was Monday the 18th. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, late Friday, I got a call from him, and he said, "Yeah, all 4 were positive," and I reran them. So they were positive twice, no false positive. So you guys on Monday the 18th, you had the coronavirus, meaning that we were post-symptomatic. We had it, we beat it, but the actual RNA of the virus was still in our snot locker. So that's how people are quote positive after they've had it, because you're testing the actual virus. Well, you can test my hands. I can go to Home Depot and you can test my hands and it'll be positive for the RNA of it. So that is by default, we know that we had it. When the antibody test comes out, hopefully they will do a random sample of LA County and probably California, and they will, I'm sure they will find that it was here in December, because how many of your friends came down sick in December? A lot of people were shopping for Christmas and they felt like shit, and it wasn't this year's seasonal flu. It was something way different. So yeah, Pier 36. Wow, the book the book The Great Influenza by John Barry is terrific. There's a bunch of really good 1918 pandemic books, a bunch of really good ones, but The Great Influenza by John Barry from a couple of years ago is really, 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 really good. And it's interesting because he wrote an article in the Smithsonian a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, and he ends the article with an anecdote about being invited out to LA County for a pandemic simulation exercise. And he describes how whoever the public official was back then, how they screwed the pooch on day one. How at a time when transparency and accurate information, or admitting that you don't have accurate information, is paramount in getting, the public's confidence, you had an official who decided to obfuscate, and it was about the scenario was a pandemic that's overtaking the world. Hasn't come to the U.S. yet. In Los Angeles, there's one suspected positive case. Go. What do you do? And the guy issued a release that basically said, "Well, we don't know that this is what the world is dealing with, so it'll require more testing. Move along. Nothing to see here." That was not the right thing to say. The correct thing to say is, we're very concerned. We're confirming the tests. However, we have a plan in place. We are the right people at the right time in the right place, and all that. But that's not what they did. That's not what LA County did. And that was in his article in the um, in the Smithsonian. Oh, you were there. Jake was at the Hollywood Improv. When I once a month, I do this thing called We the People, where they have designated right-wing people and designated left-wing people, and we get on there and we discuss all the issues of the day. It's a nice attempt. I like the host is a really funny guy, Ben Glebe, very, very funny guy. He can't hide the fact that he's already kind of liberal, so it is sort of 3-2. And generally, what happens is the liberals that he gets for that side of the stage aren't very funny. They're not very political. They try to be, current news funny. They're just not funny. They fall back on, is Trump a dummy or what? Just really, really bad. Getting conservatives to be kind of funny, I think is pretty easy because it's a pretty short list in LA, and I'm proud to be on that list, luckily. But getting stand-up comics to actually have cogent things to say about current events is really hard. Terminal Island, you mean in LA? Or do you mean another terminal island? Let me show you. I forgot. How do I add a screen? How do I do this? How do I do this shit? We have that up. We have that up. I know how to add a screen. How do I add a screen? Mm-hmm. Oh, there we go. Share screen. Okay. There we go. Here's Google Earth. Let me make it smaller. Why is it flashing? Are you guys seeing that thing flash? You're not. Let me do this. Yerba Buena Island. All right, we're zooming in to Yerba Buena Island. This was the place in during the 1918 pandemic. That was one of the so-called communities. And back in 1918, there was no Bay Bridge. As you see, there's the Bay Bridge, and there was no Treasure Island. Treasure Island is a man-made island. It used to be just Yerba Buena Island. And during the 1918 pandemic, it was a Navy base. Now it's a Coast Guard base. And the commander of the island set up a quarantine very wisely because it's an island and you can do that. So, and the result was what they would do is they had a barge. They had a barge, about 100 yards off the island, and that's where people from the mainland would bring. They would bring food and water and mail, and medical supplies and things like that. And the result from November of 1918 to March of 1919, when they reopened the island, was no deaths. There were thousands of sailors on there. Remember, it was World War I, and so no, I don't know which terminal island, because there's several terminal islands. But I haven't heard about an outbreak. No is the answer. What have you heard? Let's fly through the magic of Google Earth to Terminal Island. Is there an outbreak amongst the coasties or something? I have not heard. So has anyone tried Zoom? Hey, Jerry and Ninak. One of my daughter's best friends is out there. I'm not sure. We're really bored. My daughter, I got her a camping hammock, and it's her favorite new thing ever. So every night around 10 p.m. since what's the Wednesday? No, Tuesday. We got it Tuesday. Um, so Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday. It was last night. Yeah, she heads off into the dark. There's an 11-year-old girl, and we're on 11 acres here. Half of it is wooded. And the hammock is strung between two trees in the middle of a bunch of pine trees. And she goes out in the middle of the night, with a red light flashlight, and she sleeps out there by herself. I'm it blows me away. When I was 10 or 11 by myself sleeping out in the woods, hell no. But she goes out there with her light and her sketchbook, and in her headphones, and she goes and sleeps in the hammock. It's pretty cool. I'm proud of her. She's taken this really well. But then again, if you have kids, um, um, I don't know how they're. If you have brothers and sisters, if you have multiple kids, that must be hell. But my daughter's, she gets her chat time on Xbox with her friends, and then she wanders around, with the dogs and the sketchbook and all that. We keep our distance, and then we come together and hang out. We read to each other and stuff like that. So we're getting good time. There is a quick shout out, by the way, to Bravery Brewing. They open for growler service. So you can come to Bravery and get a growler can. And Steve Gregory, because of his question for Catherine Barger yesterday in the county press conference, he now has beer for life at Bravery Brewing. He asked Catherine Barger, hey, is the county furloughing people or laying them off or something? Because all of our companies are doing this and we're the ones that pay your, revenue. And she gave a meandering answer. And then she said, frankly, it's frankly offensive that you would ask a question like that. It's like, fuck you. You're talking to people who are either at home laid off without any money, or they're laying people off, like Bart, the owner of Bravery Brewing. He had to lay 19 people off. And then he tried to do that small business administration thing, couldn't make it work. People kept saying, well, come back when the site isn't as crashed. By the time he came back, they're out of money. And so then our council person is Catherine Barger, and she's on there saying, well, that's frankly offensive that you would ask county officials to, get laid off or whatever. So, I mean, it's outrageous. It's really, really outrageous. Because the proper stance from an elected official right now should be, I'm here to make this right. I'm going to give you facts and transparency, and you're suffering, and we're suffering too. I mean, just the idea that they're so entitled in California. California government employees are so entitled that they feel like, well, whatever is for ye is not for me. What's sauce for thee is not sauce for me. But it's no wonder, because there's no other state in the United States where 1 out of 100 residents of California work for the state. Never mind county and city. There's a higher percentage of citizens who work for government in California than anywhere except maybe Canada, in North America. But it's, the idea that when we have a bad economy, they have a bad economy too. But they're going to have a wake-up call. When all these businesses go out of work, go out of business, and suddenly they're not getting, business tax and property tax and all that, they're gonna have a wake up, and they're gonna try to raise our taxes. They're gonna say, "Oh no, we're gonna have to shut down government." And what they always do is they shut down parks, which in California, by the way, parks could be self-funding. If I paid for parking at Morro Bay and that money stayed at Morro Bay, it would be self-funding. But instead, California takes the gate revenue of all state parks and they throw it back in the state general fund. So the state park system could be self-funding, but that's not how they run it. Terminal Island, LA, Fast Food Guido says, The majority of San Pedro's 58 cases are from the island. The demographics of the patients is murky. Well, who lives on Terminal Island? Are there normals? I don't know anything about it, to be honest with you. I thought it was a big Coast Guard base. Don't know. Let's go back to Terminal Island. It's regular shipping, I guess. Looks like it. Huh. I mean, I don't see a residence anywhere here. I know this is the Coast Guard base here, right? I believe this is the Coastie base. Hi, Coasties. There's their basketball. Where'd the pool go? Oh, I don't know. I have not been to the Seal Beach Sub Museum. That's the kind of thing I would do. That's cool. Jason Armstrong. Yeah, I'm through episode 3 of Fauda as of last night. I tapped out at midnight after episode 3, but I watched 3 in a row. I think I might be halfway through 4. I'm not sure. But yeah, so far season 3 is great. It's if you don't know the show, there is a show, an Israeli show called Fauda, and Fauda is the Arabic word for chaos. And the show is about it's based on a very real Israeli intelligence unit, people that are overwhelmingly from the IDF. They did their time in elite forces in IDF, and these are operators who are a little older. They're in their late 40s and 50s. You know, they're in rock solid shape and everything, but they've been around the block. And the Israelis had this unit that infiltrated or does infiltrate into Gaza and the West Bank because the unit is filled with former active military elite operators who are native Arab speakers. And it's not uncommon in Israel for an Israeli to grow up adjacent to Arab communities and learning how to speak Arabic with a local accent, with a Gazan accent, or a West Bank accent, so that they can immerse themselves if properly, disguised. So this is where the Semites and the Arabs, have a very common lineage, and it's very easy for the Israelis to infiltrate a guy who is a perfect colloquial native Arab speaker into the West Bank and not have anyone raise an eyebrow. If he's in Gaza and people say, "Hey, what are you doing here?" He can say, "Well, I grew up in Ramallah." So he'll have a Ramallah accent, even though as a crow flies, it's only 30 miles away, but there are different accents. And this is where Palestinians stood out in Iraq really, really easily. They couldn't immerse themselves. There were Hamas people that came to Baghdad at the expense of the Iranians. They would bring Palestinians to Sadr City, and they stood out really easily because they weren't trained linguists. They just spoke the way they spoke in Palestine, and it was way different than Iraqi Arabic. So anyway, the Israelis have this unit. It's a real unit, and the show is based on those guys. And the show is based on the guy who directs it and the guy who stars in it both served in this unit, and it's really, really good because the overarching part of the show is how the unit is such a family, and these guys, their personal lives may be really messed up, but they come together as a family, and it's really, really good. The thing that kind of surprises me, and I talked to a guy, because what's really funny about Los Angeles is that there's a lot of retired, you know, types. Because when they're done with their Israeli government service, they know that the money is in LA. Come to LA and provide personal security or security at schools and things like that. My buddy's two daughters go to a Jewish day school in Beverly Hills. All their security guys are mid 50s, gray hair, gray beards, but they have the bodies of 30-year-old guys. They're ripped, they're thin, heavily armed. The whole thing. And they love it here. They make a lot of money. And I was talking to a guy, and I said, well, it really blows me away that shows on Israeli TV, because it seems to show a lot of what we call TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. And he said, it might seem like that, but they're really nothing groundbreaking. The fact is, in the West Bank, they know that Israeli undercover guys dress as phone technicians, just like the FBI does or LAPD does. This is not a big mystery, because the show will show, two guys in a little, Mercedes minivan, dressed as Palcom, Palestinian or Paltel, Palestinian telephone repairmen. Or they'll dress as Palestinian Authority police or whatever, and it's not a big mystery. So he says, yeah, they don't really reveal a lot, and it's not like the Palestinians don't know that they're penetrated not by collaborators or agents. They're penetrated by actual Israelis who are masquerading as Arabs. So it's really, really good. Really, really good show. Start with season 1. And by the way, it is all in subtitles. If you don't like subtitles, then just back off. Another interesting thing about the show, by the way, and I'll say this: I don't think a lot of Americans catch this, but it doesn't portray the Palestinians as mindless, bloodthirsty animals. In this show, they have a point of view. You just like the Israelis understand why these guys are fighting. There's an element in the Palestinian civilization that just wants to fight. They're addicted to fighting. They don't have a space program. The only way to get a street named after you is to die fighting the Jews. And that they just don't want to get along peacefully, or whatever. And so there's an element of that. It's not sympathetic. It's just being objective. But anyway, it's called Fauda. It's on Netflix. Fauda, and I'm not sure if it's dubbed. I wouldn't watch it if it was. But one of the things that you have to catch is when the lead character, Dawn, he can switch from Hebrew to Arabic, just like that, because the real actor grew up speaking Hebrew and Arabic. And also, what's funny is the show is praised by the Palestinians. The Palestinians are the ones saying, of all the people we never thought would put a show on TV that shows us in kind of a sympathetic light, the Israelis are that. And this show actually kind of shows the why we fight, thing. The show will occasionally, it will show Israeli soldiers, acting like assholes on the West Bank, because everybody in the Israeli military knows that a few of their guys, have been knuckleheads, and all that. But it is really interesting being in that position, being an occupier in Baghdad. And then also working with certain U.S. Army units that engaged in infiltration tactics. It was really interesting to me because we had to infiltrate in plain sight. Also Armstrong. War of the Worlds. This reboot of War of the Worlds with Gabriel Byrne. It's set in England, in London, and then the American Elizabeth Perkins. She literally moved to Britain years ago. Her Hollywood career ended. But the reboot of War of the Worlds is pretty good. I'm 4 episodes into it, and then I put it on hiatus because I had to watch 000, which is also really, really good. Zero, whoops. Zero, and I forgot if that is on Amazon or Netflix. But it is really, really good. It is French. It's a really good drug caper series, and also, by the way, coincidentally, also with Gabriel Byrne. 000 starts with the Sicilian mob. This old mobster. Guy's about to die. He's in hiding and all this. They need money. He needs another cocaine shipment, and so they need to find the money. And so there's a bunch of simultaneous stories. They need to find the money to pay for the coke. They need to find the cartel in Mexico to provide the coke. Meanwhile, in Mexico, there's a unit of soldiers who fight against the narco guys. In New Orleans, there's an American family, and Gabriel Byrne's the head of the family, and they do the shipping. They buy the boats and ship the coke. But it's called 000, and it's really good. It's a simultaneous, multi-layer drama about the drug business. Simultaneously from America, the guy's fighting it in Mexico, the guy's making it in Mexico, the guy's buying it in Sicily. But it's pretty good. 000. I think it's on Netflix. Don't quote me. But anyway, it's literally the word 0 3 times. Really good. Hi, Lucille. Come on up. Lucille is speaking English. She wants to go. Yeah, so that's a good one. Let's see what else. I'll stand by. I'm going to wait for today's press conferences, and I'll come back on this afternoon. I don't know. By the way, are most of you are at home, right? If there was a way that I could live stream, a morning show, which I suppose I could do this way through StreamYard. Lucille, not needed, unnecessary. She's intimidating, Wyatt. Poor 3-footed Wyatt. Yeah. So I'll come back on this afternoon. Yeah, you can take your Black Rifle coffee and shove it. This is mine, by the way. If you saw my unboxing of my new solvent trap a couple days ago, about a week ago now, again, that was from LAFOauto.com. Did that post? LAFOauto.com. I can report that when properly installed, that solvent trap did in fact, because I used my sound recorder and I recorded firing a subsonic 300 blackout without the solvent trap, and then I put the solvent trap on to trap that solvent, and it looks like it trapped about 30% of the solvent. It's already pretty quiet because it's a subsonic round, but with that solvent trap on, it seemed when I put the recording into Adobe Audition and I had the wave, it looked like it was reduced by about 30%. So for I got that solvent trap in about 6 days. It was under $90. It came with a rubber tube, so it's a solvent trap. So that was neat. Um, yeah, no, it does not ship from the U.S. It ships from a place where they can machine solvent traps far cheaper. I am not moving in the state. And by the way, I should mention this. This is probably a good time to mention this. But Premier Radio, who's part of iHeartMedia, they're the ones who syndicate Limbaugh and Buck Sexton and all that. They're putting together sort of this core best in class podcasting group. And George Noory and Coast to Coast is sort of, the head part of that deal. But I've signed a deal to be part of it for Dark Secret Place. So there'll be on iHeartRadio, there'll be a 3 times a week Dark Secret Place distributed by Premiere. So you'll start hearing that. If you stream KFI on iHeartRadio, you'll start hearing Dark Secret Place promoted as a nationwide, as a worldwide brand. So Premiere is getting on board this. So that is going to be the Maven just sucked. The Maven required something that I don't do. I'm not a web coder. I don't write content. I delivered spoken content, and they had no staff support or anything. I do radio. This is what I do. And if the way doing this with Premiere, they're going to have production staff, so I can provide the content, and then someone else can be pushing it online and transcribing it and getting supporting articles and things like that. So anyway, that's how that's going to go. I'm going to either do it from KFI or I'll do it in Sherman Oaks at Premiere Radio. Because the boss of Premiere and the boss of iHeart, our guy Bob Pittman, they understand that right now is sort of a golden age of listening, of podcasting. And if KFI is unwilling, to make a move and put me on every night, from like 10 to midnight or something like that, then at least our sister company, Premiere, is going to do that. And I've got no problem with that. So, and I'm not moving out of the state. We've now officially turned down 2 job offers. One in North Carolina for a company I used to work for, who were total cheap asses. They were shitheads when I worked for them. And nothing has gotten better. Their stock price is 60 cents right now. And they expected me to drop, Dark Secret Place and all that and move across country with my daughter to a place I've never lived, in a time zone I've never lived. And it wasn't there. Didn't feel good. And then the other job was with the company, but it was in Phoenix. And ultimately, I can't be something I'm not. They wanted a cheerleader. I can't be Sean Hannity. I'm not a cheerleader for the White House. When something works, I give it credit. But so I'm not that guy. But we did for the right thing. We definitely would. It's just that right now and throughout anyone's radio career, the opportunities are in LA. If you're going to come to the epicenter where radio pays the most and there's the most opportunities, it's in Los Angeles. That's just that. And you can talk to anybody. I mean, I happen to know this because I worked in Seattle, Portland, Salt Lake, Reno, the Bay Area. Talk to anybody in radio. Would you cut your arm off to do radio in LA? The answer is yes, I would. The only person who wouldn't say that might be somebody in New York, but there are people who are probably really good in Minot, North Dakota, but they don't have the job. They would cut an arm off to come to LA. So anyway, yeah. So so that's why we're here. And also we have a good situation here. I mean, I gotta say, we started in Studio City. I didn't mind that because because a 5-minute commute is great. And then we lived in Little Tujunga Canyon, which was a beautiful house in an amazing setting, but it was a hour. It was half an hour just to get down Little Tujunga Canyon to Placerita. So it was an hour drive. to KFI, and then we moved up to Green Valley, north of Santa Clarita, which is a beautiful little town, but crazy. I mean, full of insane people and paroled sex offenders and shit like that. They don't have that on the sign. It doesn't say "Welcome to Green Valley," filled with meth heads and paroled sex offenders, or else you'd turn around. And so then we found just the right thing. We found 11 acres, fenced, barn, house, trees, and all that. So, yeah. All right. I probably, I'll limit these to under 60 minutes because video, I like the fact that I can share a screen. That is cool. I wonder if I could show you the trailer of 000. Can I share that screen, or does that kill my throughput? I wonder. Let's see. Can you hear the sound on this, by the way? Skip ad. Last time we couldn't hear the sound when I share a screen. Can you hear that? So when I share a screen, it's not sharing the audio. Is that what we're saying here? You have my audio. Well, that sucks. I got to figure out a way to do that. Anyway, as you saw, it was the show is 000, and it's on Amazon. Really intense. I like it. I forgot where War of the Worlds is. Is that Amazon also? Pretty good. And Fauda is on season 3. So there you go. Yeah, press conference later on today. Wild stab. More. There's going to be a daily high. There's going to be a new record of dead in LA. LA County continues to be the one place in California where it's spiking, as I predicted. Even in California, pardon me, even in San Francisco, they have not rounded up the homeless and then shot them out to rec centers or hotels. They don't have the death rate amongst the homeless that we do. So that'll be later on today. All right. Well, the dogs are going crazy. We did a 6 a.m. run. Apparently, I guess so. You guys like my videos of the dogs? Should I post one of those a day or something? Because I'll do that. I'll I'll shoot a dog play video every day. So I'm going to go do that right now. Apparently, it's supposed to rain or something. All right. Well, thanks for dropping in, and have a good day. And we will talk to you later here at KFI Dark Sleeper Place and stuff. And